Hi guys, uh, Henry Horror here. With me always is my co-host, Mr. Johnny Noise.
Hey guys, welcome to the Inertia Channel. Tonight we have a very, very special guest on. We're super excited. And once again, Henry's worked his magic to find all these great people to come in and join us on our program. I'll let Henry do the introductions.
Yes, tonight we have storyteller, filmmaker, Miss Cecelia Condit. How are you doing, Cecelia?
Hey,
I'm
Cecelia.
well, thank you, Henry. Thank you, Johnny.
Well,
All
welcome.
right.
Welcome to our show. I'm sure Henry has some initial questions, and then we'll kind of delve into that and then get things kind of kicked off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, how did you get into storytelling slash filmmaking?
Well, that's pretty easy. I tried lots of things that I wasn't so good at. I wasn't bad. I just knew there were so many people better than me. So I did sculpture for a while, installations and photography. But I found that I didn't have stories to tell. I had images, but I didn't have stories. And I had so many stories to tell from being alive that were just really sitting on my head, that I found that video seemed to be something at the time, if I could get a cheap camera, which I did, that, or the universities or colleges I taught at had them. So I could use them sometimes. And that made all the difference to me. So then I started just, I think I started like with Beneath the Skin, and I just started talking. And I had a story that was so real, and it separated me from other people. So it was as though I could talk about murder, and other people just couldn't talk about it. And I felt that, so I never talked about it. It's not like dinner conversation. So then I thought if I made a piece about it, then it would be something that might lighten up in my head,
Right.
instead of like sitting there. And then I found that it didn't do that much difference. It took me longer than I thought, because murder's a kick in the gut. I mean, I think anytime somebody gets murdered, it's a kick in the gut. So I did possibly in Michigan. And that was, then I started feeling better, but I started feeling paranoid because Pat Robinson, who's one of the Christian right evangelical leaders, who's now dead, he he put possibly on his Christian Broadcast Network, and he called me a lot of names that were in his minds derogatory, and it made me very paranoid because I was already paranoid. Because I was already paranoid, so it made me really paranoid. So I was sort of afraid to have a voice where I talked about men. So the next piece I started talking about my mother. So I got a shot at her. She deserved it. So I gave her only in my work, didn't deserve
Yeah.
anything like in real life.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So then I just went on from there. And still to this day, I feel like I've had stories that sort of surrounded me. But yeah,
Wow. So you mentioned you taught you were a professor out of college. Or you taught at college. I read something.
yeah.
Wow.
I taught at, I know, I taught at several places, three places actually as college. First, the University of South Dakota, then the
Okay.
Cleveland Institute of Art, and then I stayed for 30 some years, or 30 years, at the University of Wisconsin in Milwaukee. And there I
Wow.
was director of the grad program. So I wore a very heavy professional hat, considering the stories I had to tell. So I didn't talk about them, of course, but I obviously came from a take where people told stories that were personal. So I couldn't imagine somebody in my classes making art that wasn't about their lives in some ways, because people have lives, right? I mean, they just have so many stories to tell that to be an expert on somebody else's story is almost a waste of time when you're an expert really only on your own. So that was sort of the take I did, and I guess that was something that was, for me, worked very well. So I had a class I taught on dreams too, because nightmares are things that I can
Nightmares.
have in
Right.
various different times. Yeah. So
Wow.
I felt like I could deal with dreams. So I talked about Jung, talked about Freud, and all these crazy people, and all these filmmakers who do dreams. Right? So many people have
Right.
done films that were like dreams, or sections of films, just little sections.
Sections.
That,
Right. Right.
yeah, that were dreams, and so that's how I kind of went on. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. That's kind of a pretty diverse filmmaking and teaching, and there's a whole there's a lot going on. There's a lot
And
that
I
you
was a
have to
mom.
do.
I was a mom. I had two
And you're a
boys.
mom. Wow.
Yeah, yeah. That's what there's a lot. I really like being a mom. I
Oh,
like
wow.
being
Great.
with
Yeah.
boys. They're all good men now. They're all older.
Right. Right. Oh,
They're
wow.
good. I like them.
That's awesome. Yeah. Yeah. So I came across possibly in Michigan. I was just on YouTube and this short film popped up, and I saw it, and it it was only a little over 11 minutes, but it drew me in, and I felt like I was watching something at a cinema, and I got this. I started getting into the story, of it, and I was really intrigued. Arthur was he was pretty terrifying to me with his look because he had the tuxedo and he had the mouth. The mouth agape thing, I think, is what really uh, got me creeped out. And I watch a lot of horror movies, so I don't creep out very easy. But I was like, that Arthur guy is just, yeah, he's just creepy, and the whole, no, 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 he's behind her doing this, and the no, 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 and I was like, okay, that's creepy. That's just. But I saw it all the way through, and I got the story, and I was like, wow. And then I actually saw Beneath the Skin second, and that one drew me in as well. And before I knew it, I was looking to how to get a hold of you because I called it John right away. I always do this whenever we gotta have this person on the show, and and
Yeah.
like I'm all excited about it, and I'm trying to get a hold of this person, and so. But yes, I love your films because they're like any work of art. If it's truly art, it draws you in, and that's the mark of any good art, right there. So, I did have another question. So back then, when you were doing videos like possibly in Michigan, uh, did it necessarily take a long time to put those together with the editing and the overlays and everything? And did it take a couple of weeks? Did it
Oh,
take a month or?
well, I didn't know what I was doing, Henry, because I didn't know. I mean, I never took a film class. I was teaching photography, and I was sort of a fraud because I wasn't doing photography. I knew I wanted to do video, and I was just transitioning. I mean, it sounds like the famous word transitioning, but I was truly transitioning into something which I thought was radical. I thought video was like put it in your pocket and you can go, which it wasn't because those portable cameras were unbelievably unportable. But still, they were something that I could tell a story with, and I thought they were like a revolution in my mind. And video didn't have that patriarchal thing. It didn't have the history of men, which had a problem for me because I felt like I had a voice that was talking about how I saw the world, and I think I was talking about men. Arthur was a bad guy, and I had a
Yeah.
lot of
Yeah.
experience with bad guys, and so I I tried to, when I saw the Arthur mask, I found it in the basement of a college in a dental school. And I picked it up and I tried it on and I went, my God, it must be for a child. I had a little head. And so I thought it must be for a child. And it was the only thing in my life I really stole. Because it must have been
Wow.
like, it was just in a pile of crap.
Right.
But I didn't know if it was going to be thrown away. It was certainly not some treasured thing behind a case. But I
Right.
just took it. And then I knew I could do possibly in Michigan. I tried to find people that had small heads to fit it. So I ended up being Arthur. And also it worked out very well because I was kind of afraid of the character too in filming. And so this way I was inside of the mask and I could have a
Okay.
voice, slowed down. I could take all the high notes out of my voice and say, you have two choices. So I became the figure that I was afraid of. Do you know, it's like the shadow side of you that
Right.
really
Right. Okay.
eats you up. And
Right.
so Arthur and I kind of like had a moment impossibly. And then there were a whole lot of other stories and dreams that get woven into that video. I mean, I met a woman. Oh, I'm really not getting to the point. Yeah, it took me some time. What happened was that I cast it, and Sharon, who the girl who he tries to kill, and
Yeah.
he, she got tired of being in it, and I think I miscast her. She was too normal. And so I shot for about 9 months. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know what I was doing because I never made a video besides Beneath the Skin, which is me talking and filling in shots. So I wasn't making a narrative. And there was no help. I mean, it was me and these two gals. And then this one gal decided she was done, but I had shot for 9 months and I was just figuring out what I was doing. And so I recast her and put Jill Sands with Sharon as the lead, and then Karen, who did the music, she came and stepped in as Janice. And then after 9 months, we started again what I had shot, and then started really working in earnest. I didn't know it was about cannibalism. I mean, it was getting somehow more violent. It was clear to me. I had to. It had. Well, you don't have a guy with his mouth open like stalking people unless it's something's got to happen. I mean, I thought in the beginning I could throw him in an oven or something and they could turn into cookies, but that seemed as I went along that it was very hard to make that fairy tale work. So that's when I met a woman who dated a cannibal, and he had eaten 6 other women, and she was going to go visit him. And they found on the Plain Dealer in Cleveland that they had found 6 bodies in his basement of women that he bones, of course, that he had eaten.
Whoa.
So
Whoa.
she said, she told me when I met her, she says, I was telling her I was doing a story about this guy who killed people and or anyone. I mean, his mouth was open, ready to go, like ready to go. And so she said, I got a story better than that. I went, oh, okay, I'll just take it. So then it was about cannibalism. And it was like at the end of the piece that it turned out to be about cannibalism. It was just, we were at the very end of shooting. I was so beyond exhausted, possibly because I didn't know what, I mean, it already shot for 9 months and then we shot again and again and again and again. And then Karen said that she could write a song about cannibalism, so she did. And so she wrote the main theme of the cannibal song. I wrote all the other little team songs, I guess, put your, poodle in the microwave, eat it.
Wow.
But she did the other one, and she's a remarkably talented person. And I think that possibly is so good because the Jill was at the most beautiful time in her life. She was just as beautiful as any movie star could possibly be. She didn't have a lot of stamina. She was kind of frail, but she was so stunning. that it was like having not just an anybody, but somebody who had a persona that was just a knockout. I thought, in that perfume department, which makes anybody look beautiful, but Jill's was beautiful. And so that was one thing. And then Karen had kind of a look that was gentle and kind of like everybody. Jill was not like everybody, but Karen Spalding was. And so she was sort of like the normal kind of gal who could come in and kill somebody if needed,
Oh,
right?
okay. Right, right.
She wasn't like an extraordinary beauty. She was just like your good friend, your best friend in the world, who could just come in and when you needed her, could grab a gun and pull the trigger. And that's something that I think is something that I believe that people you really love dearly would do for you if you needed them to.
Yeah, it's kind of like having that 3 a.m. friend. You pick up the phone at 3 a.m. I'm coming over, and they're there.
And that's,
Yeah.
yeah, and there, I tell you, I know from experience, one of my horror stories is that calling people at some unbelievable time in the morning and saying, call me in the morning. And I go, my friend's not going to make it that long. I need a lift now. And they
Right,
get But, Janice came in and did the job and kept her friend alive. And that was something like me. I had a friend who had an illegal abortion. Illegal. They were legal back then too. And it was a fallopian tube pregnancy, but she didn't know that. And so she started bleeding out. And I couldn't get a lift. And I couldn't call her mother because I knew her mother didn't believe in abortion and she wouldn't come home. This was And so I just was heartbreaking. And so I got this guy who was just a riot. He was always out partying and he was always drinking and carrying on. And at 2 in the morning, when I finally reached him, because he had a car, and so many people did, he just came over. So he was the guy, Johnny, at 3 in the morning,
right.
who came, and I would have never guessed. And he thought nothing. I never talked to him about it. He never asked how she was. I didn't know if when I got her to the hospital, we got her to the hospital, that she was alive. I just sat down. So it's the people that come for you when you at 3 in the morning and just show up that makes that story, I think, so powerful.
Right, right.
And
Wow.
also because
Definitely.
I had this other story. So it was like for me really personal.
I'm sure. Right, right. So you kind of, when you're writing or getting into character or what have you, you're drawing off of you draw off a lot of like personal
Yeah, I
experiences
love my own
to
stories.
sure, sure. So do you find that I don't want to say easier, but you find that a little more that you're a little more driven in your character because you're relating back to reflecting back on kind of yourself in a way.
I don't know how to make art any other way. I mean, I know
Okay.
that there's
Yeah.
people that can make art so many different ways, and I know you
Right.
don't have to have a story in your head to make great art. I know you don't. But for me, I have to have some kind of a thing that is happening in my world, or something that I feel like, I don't know. In this new piece I'm doing, which is called Monster and Me, I'm sort of dealing with all the monsters that I've had in my head. And I actually feel like today I think I finished it. I mean, I say that for about the last month because it takes me so long to polish it off. But I got to drop things that were really grisly for me and try to make the ones that were really important lines. Like this one doll, right, says, I tried to be sweet so you wouldn't kill. And
Oh
that's
wow.
something, that's a line that a friend of mine was raped, very, very seriously raped, by a guy who pretended to be the gas man when they used to come into your house. Like now that's happened so many times that they made it so the gas things are outside of houses because so many
Right.
women
Right.
are raped. But she got really brutally raped, and that's one of the things that caused her really a lot of suffering, was to think that she had to be sweet so he wouldn't kill her. So I took out a lot of craziness that's just lines, because I
Right.
narrowed down to certain lines that I thought that still haunt me. I'm sure they haunt her, but I don't know. I just know they haunt me because she stayed with me for 6 months after she was raped because she couldn't go. She was
Sure, sure. She needs
Yeah.
she needed that other person, or like yourself, to be, you know, together to keep her sanity, or whatever's left of it anyway, after something like that.
Yeah.
You would think.
I think that she really doesn't deal with it. I think some
Okay.
ways I'm the one that absorbed her. I only read sort of certain lines, but it's very clear to me, like to have your closest friend in work, because I have very close friends.
Right,
Um,
right.
I mean, I've always needed close friends, and right, but somebody, anyway, so I was somebody who could be there at 3 in the morning,
Right,
into
right. There you go. Right,
right,
right.
and
Oh my
get
gosh.
her boyfriend to go and break into her house and find her tied to a chair.
Oh my God.
3 days later,
Mm.
they couldn't find her. So simple things, that kind of haunt me. I don't know if they haunt her. We don't talk about it because it's too much for her. But it's the stories. There's just few lines that really get me. There's certain
Right,
images
right.
that get me, and I
Sure.
can't help but I tie them into my work. And I found that as I get older, so it's I've been working for a long time, and that they're not always really bad. They're not always violent at all, but sometimes they are.
Right, right. Wow. That's
Yeah.
sometimes life will set you on a path, or set you in motion to something else. You just don't know. You know, with something like that, which is pretty traumatic. I mean, I couldn't even imagine. And but you're able to draw kind of off of that in it, you know, years down the road, in a creative kind of way. As if I'm
Well,
if I'm reading that correctly, yeah,
yeah, you're reading it correctly.
yeah,
You
yeah,
are.
So it's almost like balance and counterbalance
yeah.
to me, from my take on it. It's like drawing from one and the other, but there's like some kind of balance and balance. Like I said, balance and counterbalance.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know.
I
So
think I walk a line.
you walk the line. Yes, you do. I have to say, you in some of your short your films, you did kind of a narration thing,
Sometimes.
and I find that interesting. Now, this is just a personal, observation. I kind of find that very interesting. Whatever scene you're also doing a narration kind of, and it gives it a different feel, different vibe to it, as opposed to just performing the scene and doing whatever. So now you're in the scene, you're going through whatever, but then there's a it's almost like you're hearing your thoughts, I guess. You did the narration parts coming out during the scene. I think that's pretty. Do you find doing that, I'm not saying easier, but do you prefer that uh, uh, kind of acting, or more so of just going into a character without, you know what I'm saying? Because there's two different elements here. There's straight acting, and then there's that narration thing, and it's kind of. Uh, uh, I'm trying to think of a movie that also, it's like the movie Sin City. It was narrated, but you were not only in it but narrating at the same time. So how did that
Sometimes
happen?
I know that's real interesting. Yeah, I think. Well, this well like in Beneath the Skin, I just wrote line, recorded line, and recorded line, just like on a really cheap. I mean, you can tell it's just a really cheap audio recorder. It was the only one I could take home, and I get an idea and I record it. But this latest piece I'm just finishing is Monster and Me, and that piece I never even put pen to paper. I would it. I have started having such flashbacks of things that scared me and just difficult things that I thought I had processed, and I locked them away. And I have this thing about men feeling entitled to other people's bodies, women's entitled bodies. And so I did this piece that it's too many times I felt that was true. So I didn't even, I would wake, so I'm really able to control my world in my mind. Because, you have to be able to do this. But what happened was that I would sleep and I would get up I would have nightmares or I'd have some sort of flashback. And then I would just pick up my phone and I would put it on memo and I would just record a line and then I'd go back to sleep. It was like recording a dream, but I'd record a line.
Wow.
Like
Yeah.
he moved into my head and brought two chairs and a bed and then two books that he read and he painted the floors and locked all the doors.
Wow. 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 Yeah. Yeah.
Like I didn't have to write them. That was like dreamland. And so I just recorded them and then put them right, and I put them wherever I thought they would go. And that was a very
Fine.
different way of working. So it wasn't as though I started with a story, which really helps, but I'm like trying to figure out what it is that I'm really experiencing. And then by the time the piece is done now, like this a few days ago, I decided, I got this one line that I think described the whole piece, like what I was trying to get to, like what does all this mean? Why? Like why? How? What's all this violence and has been around my world and and sometimes it makes me feel weak. Like I'm not as strong. Why did this happen to me and not somebody else? But I came
Right.
up with this line that a friend of mine was saying, and it defined the whole piece, and then I rewrote so much of the things that I said, now I understand that I've always been strong, because I'm always falling in this piece. I fall and I fall and I fall and I fall. But I've always, and I come to the conclusion, which is lovely. There's this little girl walking, and she's not, and everybody in the piece is me. So even the bad guys are me, because that's the only way I can cope.
Yeah.
Because I can't take the fact that, like when they have knives or something, I can't. They have to be me. Like in Arthur had to be me.
Wow.
They're
Wow.
Prince Charming. They have to be me because I can't stand it. So yeah, so everybody in the piece is me. And so as soon as I say that I always was strong, there's this little girl walking.
Wow. So is that you said you had the thought or what have you, and then you record it. Is that kind of so when it hits you, no matter when it kind of hits you, you have that meeting. So okay, well, I'm going to record this now so I don't lose it. You know,
Yeah,
a
that's
lot of
what I
people
do.
do
Otherwise,
that.
it's gone, like a dream, gone.
Yeah, yeah, and I know being a musician that I've done that where it's you wake up, you hear something, your brain's going 100 miles an hour, and you hear a riff or something, and I come in my music room, put my headphones on, and I just record this thing real quick, and then go back to bed. And my wife's like, "What was that?" I said, "I had a thought," I don't, you don't want to lose it, so you have to have that, voice record or record your music or something or whatever that hits you at that time because 5 minutes later your brain just goes poof and you're like,
It's gonna.
what happened? Where did it go? And that and I'm sure a lot of people will, will write that way or will use recorders or have one handy almost 24/7. Like, okay, I got a thought. Or you pull the side of the road and the ABC, the EFG, and then you got it, and then you go back about your business, and you can always revert back to that. So you found that super helpful in what
Super
what
helpful.
you are doing. Oh, right,
And
right.
also because I was working on this film, so I was obsessed with it. So
Sure.
that's kind of how I live. And so in my mind is there, and it knows maybe what should, not my mind, something else sort of knows. My mind is turned off in sleep. So there's a part of me that's, I don't know if it's spiritual, but it's something like that just comes up with lines that could be ones that go in here or there. And sometimes I put lines in that are really bad, that I think are not good, but they lead me somewhere else. Like there's one line that was in Monster and Me that goes, I met a monster, he ate my leg and then wanted another. He ate my arm and then wanted the other. He ate my body like he was my lover. And I had it in there for ages. And then I just took it out because I felt like I wanted to give the line, because that's just a fairy tale. There's always monsters of these things. But I thought it was a little bit like just too much of a generic universal fairy tale. So that I gave the line, I tried to be sweet so you wouldn't kill me, which strikes me as a much more personal line. I gave it air to breathe.
Right, I got you. Okay, okay.
So little things that they had to be in there. Those lines had to be there for me to feel like, because sometimes work is really cathartic for me. Like possibly really kind of was. It took everything out of me. I was like a nothing left kind of a gal at the end. And
Sure.
that's true also with Karen and also Jill Sands, Karen Skildany and Jill Sands. It was tiring. And so, because we didn't know what we were doing. I certainly didn't, and I was the director, so I would have challenged anybody. I just had to assume that because I didn't know what story I was telling. I didn't know it was about cannibalism until about the last month. And then it became clear that, oh wow, then it's called We Shoot This Scene. Two naked gals sitting at a table eating raw hamburger, right? Yeah.
Wow, wow. That
Yeah,
that's
that was kind of that was to me. It was kind of that was kind of the twist on that story because you know here going into it, I thought they you know they were I thought they were gonna be victim, but it's like they really chose not to be
Well,
victim.
that 2 o'clock in the night or 3 o'clock in the night phone call, and your friend came,
hmm
your
Yep,
dearest
that is
friend
true.
in the world came.
That is very true. I'll try not to give too much away because I want our viewers to go out and
go out and
watch
watch this
the
thing.
watch them
Yes,
themselves.
yes.
I
Because
get it.
I saw the first well I saw possibly first and then I saw Beneath the Skin and then I saw that you had your own YouTube channel and most of the movies were there. So I literally spent like a whole one of my days off like a whole afternoon. I watched like all of them and then you sent me the link to Monster and Me, and I fell in love with that one too. Speaking of Monster and Me, when I'll probably ask this question, and then we'll probably wrap it up soon after. Is it at least from a technical standpoint? Is it a little bit easier to film and edit and put the music in? Is it a little bit easier to do it with today's technology as opposed to in the early 80s?
I thought about that, and other people have asked me, and I haven't been able to figure out, Henry, what it is about it. Because possibly it's just what it was. Beneath the Skin, it was easier because then you have this story. Of course, I was always changing the story, but you could wear out a videotape because I took so long.
Yeah, yeah.
So that was a real thing. I always worried about it because it took so long for me to make. I'm always running over this tape. And I think that was really hard. But there was something in the beginning, I thought that digital technology made it so easy that it was, it was just too easy. And then I just go, I don't know, as I get older, I'm so thrilled that this is so, because it isn't easy, because making art is always so hard. At
Hmm.
least in
Yeah.
my mind, it takes me from one place, like to the end. Like you didn't see the ending now in Monster and Me. I don't know. I think I got it. I mean, but it's been. This was the shortest piece I've ever done in my life, besides Grizzly Bear, which I did shot in 6 days, and then it was just like a little teeny commission. Otherwise, things can take me 2 years, a year, 3 years.
Wow.
I
Wow.
did a piece on my mom, and of course, it was the last 3 years of her life.
Mm.
So I was sort of like going to be done sometime, and she died just as I got done. She just sort of knew I was done, and then she checked out.
Wow.
So that
Wow.
was interesting. And she had things to say. And now some of the things she says really matter to me. Like she has a line, going up through the steps of the past is how we learn to die. And now I can see that the past, as you get older, you think you can lock it away, like in Monster and Me. You think you can lock it away. But when you get older, it's not like past lives come back to you. Though I think that there are people who that does happen to when they're older. I was helping an old lady across the street one time, and she was and before to a trolley, and she in Philadelphia, and she said to me, "Oh, when you get older, these past lives come back to you." And then I helped her on, and I was like haunted all day long.
Oh my
But
God.
there's things that I think that happen when you have less of a job, less of children, less of job, right? That you're more prey to the good and the difficult things. And I think there's a certain amount of resolving that I think people do when they get older. I can't even believe it. I know at one time people were dead by 25. They didn't have a chance to resolve themselves at all. Whatever you got from childhood, you are just messed up for the rest of your 25 years.
Yeah.
Because
Mhm.
you can't possibly resolve that by 25. And then I know that people eventually live till they were 35. But 35 is just when you start learning to walk. You have your sense of what you love, maybe who you love or what it is. You're in a different position. And so just to die you have kids, maybe. You have a partner, maybe. You have a job that sustains you, maybe.
Maybe.
You
Yeah.
know, or and the thought of dying then, like it's such a privilege to be able to actually evolve and as a person because you get to live if you get to live longer because you get to have these things that you can actually from all the craziness of what life deals with you can on a personal level even though I know the world is wild now it's just wild it's a film in itself but a
It's a
lot of
film
it
in itself. Yes.
it's a film in itself, but for me, I feel like I'm going to be dealing with patriarchy because I feel like now, at one time, like impossibly and beneath the skin, I was dealing with patriarchy. I mean, clearly, it's hard for me because it's been so oppressive. But now you can see where men are, and men are in a very different state, and there's that big fat state where narcissism just sits and it's a very different state and men are at this my opinion this incredibly potentially powerful point where they don't have to identify with the narcissistic patriarchal thing that has kind of messed our country around and the world around for so long now when men can define and women can define another world that is not that's not them And so I think it's kind of an amazing time in spite of the fact that it's crazy.
Yeah, yeah. It you know
Definitely.
it's definitely a unique period of what everybody's going through and what everybody's interpretation of it, and how everybody's affected by it. And
But
of course,
everybody's affected by it.
correct. And
Correct.
yes, correct. We are definitely. But I think that uh, part of it also, like with okay, social media per se, is that some people, like especially the younger generation. I'm a bit older, so social media to me is something I use and something I have respect for, something I'm cautious about because I've been around the block a little bit, and I know what not to kind of put out there because I've done it and gotten really hammered before early on, so I'm like, "Ooh, that was not good." Oh yeah, I was like, what the heck? So, but I think that if you have, I want to say, kind of a respect for what social media is, but then you have to be able to unplug, I believe, in my opinion, from it. Like I had to get personally took down my personal social media is 100% sanitized. There's like nothing on it. But then I have my music social media, which I put everything on, but nothing personal. So I express myself with my art and this as well, but as far as
Yes.
this is what we have for dinner. This is what we did for this. Hey, no, I do. Personally, I don't do that. But and I think the same thing with the climate and what's going on today. It's important to be. This is just my opinion. It's important to be informed, but it's also important to be able to shut it off because if people dwell on stuff so much, like there would there would be no creativity, so to speak. Like for me, there'd be no music. There'd be no because if I would just dwelled on what's going on today, and you just get
Gets in your head.
it's in your brain. So if all that's
Yeah.
Yeah.
swimming around here in your head,
Lock all the doors.
yeah,
Yeah, I know.
hello,
Gotta
right?
keep them open.
You gotta right. So then it would. I think it would affect people like yourself. Your creativity would take second chair to the madness or the however it's being presented to you by whomever. You can't even form your own opinions kind of anymore because but but you know you're a person like yourself who is very creative. You have to, I'm sure, and correct me if I'm wrong, you kind of have to step back from the real world a little bit and going, okay, that's going to do what it's going to do, but I got an idea for something else over here. I got time for this nonsense. So and
Yeah.
then you come up with, then you create something that you want to share with everybody.
Well,
And
except for that, for me, I do know what you're saying. I mean, I totally get it. You have to have a personal life. This is too weird. There's too many changes too quickly to be able to process it without driving yourself crazy.
right,
But,
right,
but for me, I was going to have all had all my monsters kind of like I had an idea what I was going to do without knowing. But when I started the piece and I said, and I started it as though I once met a monster who ate the world. And that was a story that goes across countries and
right,
civilizations back to the beginning of like early time. But it
right.
also, and I made it ate my world because I went, oh, I can't talk about everybody else because it's just there's so many of us. You've never been so aware of how many people there are in the world as now. So I just, I once met a monster who ate my world, but I was still talking about all the monsters that
Right.
are out there. They're
Yeah.
just one line here and there, like I can shout out to, man, I want the monsters.
Right, right. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Well, we certainly are looking forward to hearing more from you for sure, and catching up on some more of your works. And we'll definitely have it available for our listeners, to pull up your page and kind of get a feel for what you have done and what you're doing and what you're about to do. And but we greatly appreciate you taking the time out to talk to us for
Oh
sure.
yeah.
And I think that you're certainly a wonderful person and very creative. And for our listeners too, look, take note. You need the creativity and putting yourself out there and expressing yourself. Don't let anything hinder you. I mean, obviously you've been through a lot, and you express yourself, and you're letting kind of people into your world a little bit. But yeah, it takes courage, though. It takes a lot of courage to put it out there too.
Yes, it does.
You
An
know,
amazing amount of courage.
it does. Yes, it does. You know, eh,
Sometimes it
sometimes.
does.
Well, we've had people that didn't even want to come and do an interview. They said, no, I can't. I panic, whatever. It's just us. So imagine doing what you do, a film or a short film, and then totally exposing your creativity to possible criticism, negative or positive, and you got to take everything with a grain of salt. You know, Not everybody says, "Hey, that was great," or this, whatever. And that's what anything, even what we do here. I think we're open to. Well, that was like, and then, so we're like, well, we're gonna put it out anyway because this is what we do. You know,
Right.
you know.
Yeah, I think it takes a certain level of courage to be out in social media, period.
Oof. Oh,
Yeah.
so social media can be vicious. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it can be
It can be
pretty
vicious.
cutthroat.
Yes,
I'll
it
tell you
can.
that.
Yes,
It
it
can
I
be.
know.
can.
I feel like I've been very lucky. I have fans on social media. And if anybody comes for the jugular, ah, they come
Yeah,
right
yeah.
in and they say, you know who you're talking to?
They'll come and get you. That's for sure.
So far, so good.
Well, that's
So
good.
before we sign off, so if people out there want to see more Cecilia Condit, where can they go? I mean, like what? I mean, obvious. You have your YouTube channel, which is Cecilia Condit, and they can subscribe to that. But is there any other media that they can follow?
I think everything, even the new piece is going out there pretty soon. I
So
mean,
pretty much YouTube.
it's almost YouTube. I have Vimeo, but it's the same thing. I don't
Okay.
have more on it. I just have more writings and things like that, or installations. I have things like that that are different than but I'm thinking about putting, well, seems to me that YouTube, it's just like the big search engine. And, like Google has been very kind to me. It closed me down for a while. I couldn't post anything. I could see it. Other people could see it, but I didn't have access. Now they have disclaimers on it, which is sort of interesting, which I don't care for particularly, but I suppose that I feel lucky that everything is still fine.
Right.
Ugh.
We had an issue just real quick. We had swapped over to Rumble, um, and because of an algorithm issue on YouTube, so we went to Rumble, and
Yeah.
so far, knock on, we've been on a roll, but might be something if you run into any kind of you know situation, you add Rumble to it. It's so simple. Just go on to Rumble, tag it, and throw stuff on Rumble as well. And I think it's a lot more forgiving, you know,
Yeah.
than YouTube.
Okay, I never heard of it, so I'm glad to know. Thank
We
you.
will send you. Well, this will be on Rumble, and we'll make sure that you get the link to pull it up on Rumble. It'll be on Facebook as well, but so you'll be able to pull up Rumble and see exactly how it kind of works. It's very simple, but it doesn't have all the so far for us anyway. We haven't come across a lot of the AI driven algorithms. Well, this can't go, or that can't go, or this, So
Yeah.
which I'm sure So that might be something to investigate when you're
Thank
putting
you.
out some of your forums. Sure, sure.
Thanks.
But uh, I'll let Henry wrap it up. But just real quick, thank you so very much to come and talk with us. You definitely a delight to have on our show. I mean, we
Oh
throw
yes.
that out there.
Yes, Miss Cecilia, thank you so much. This really means a lot to us that you took time out of your day to spend a little time with us and give us a little insight into your art. Um, and may you have happy holidays
For
ahead of
sure.
time.
For sure.
Thank
You
you.
know.
Thanks, Chris.
And with that, guys, we're gonna go ahead and wrap it up, and we will see you guys in the next video.
We'll see you. Hold that thought. I'm just going to stop the video, and it's just let me stop it real quick, but don't hang up yet. Don't hang up. There's method to the madness.